Many of you know what global warming is and have acknowledged what it has led to, but there are several people that are very skeptical about the effects. A lot of these skeptics are saying that it isn't a threat at all, that it's all just a conspiracy. British journalist James Delingpole from Forbes magazine claims that climate scientists manipulate the data supporting the claims of a sudden and dangerous increase in the Earth's temperature. Okay, this leads to my main claim. Global warming is a threat and it has significant effects on human health, wildlife, and natural disasters. Okay, my first point. Global warming affects human health. The warming of the planet threatens people worldwide, causing deaths from heat waves. The World Health Organization believes that the increase in average temperature that has occurred since the 1970s are responsible for at least 150,000 extra deaths a year, and this number is expected to double by 2030. Okay, this past summer, according to the Met Office, which is Britain's national weather service, said that Britain had reached its highest temperature in 2013 during the week of July, with 89.9 degrees Fahrenheit. That week, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine estimated 650 deaths due to the heat wave they experienced in those past days. These suffocating heat waves cause people to die from dehydration. The National Weather Service meteorologist Greg Harbin said that an increasing frequency of heat waves is one aspect of climate change you can point to. Okay. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, hot sunny days cause global level ozone to reach unhealthy levels, which can and have caused health defects. Now, ground level ozone is what we breathe in. This harmful air pollutant puts many people at risk, including the elderly and the young children, and they're the ones, if they're being exposed to this bad air quality, they're more likely to get heart and respiratory diseases. Now, my second point, global warming harms wildlife. Animals that cannot adapt to changes caused by global warming are either extinct or pushed to extinction. The latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report found that approximately 20 to 30% of animal species are likely to be at risk of extinction if the global temperature increases by more than 2.5 to 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, polar bears, for example, are some of the animals that are suffering. They are drowning because they have to swim long distances in order to get to safe ground. Now, aquatic ecosystems are being put at risk as well. The emission of CO2 is making the ocean more acidic, and the coral reefs, along with the fish that live there, are at risk. The National Wildlife Federation calculated that in one single year, 16% of the world's coral reefs were wiped out. Now, the National Resources Defense predicted that a 3.6 Fahrenheit increase in temperature would wipe out 97% of the world's coral reefs. Now, global warming is pushing these coral reefs into oblivion. Now, the New York Times says that the wipeout of coral reefs will be a disaster for hundreds of millions of people in poor tropical countries like Indonesia and the Philippines who depend on the coral reefs for food. And it will obviously go badly for the hundreds of fish that live there as well. Now, to my last point, that global warming causes extreme weather changes that lead to natural disasters. The United States Environmental Protection Agency concluded that hot weather and strong winds have caused devastating wildfires. In 2012, the hottest recorded year in LA, about 3,000 firefighters and airplanes fought 3 wildfires near LA, and hundreds of people were forced to evacuate, and obviously thousands of acres of land were destroyed. Now, global warming has also caused disasters like hurricanes. Since the Industrial Revolution, the planet has warmed up to 0.8 degrees Celsius. Due to that increase, weather events have enough moisture in the air to thrive and to cause bigger damage. Now, several reports have concluded that Hurricane Sandy was one of the deadliest to hit the U.S. in 40 years. Now, scientists from the Geological Society of America believe that Hurricane Sandy had a greater impact because of climate change. It broke the record with a 13.2-foot storm. Now, Penn State University climatologist Michael Mann said that at least 1 foot of those 13.2 feet was due to the sea level rise, and the sea levels are 1 foot higher than they were a century ago. The problem of global warming is continuing to intensify. As you can tell, it not only affects our health, but animals and the environment as well. Now, global warming has been the talk of many through the years. Some believe that it's just a conspiracy. But while thoughts are just thoughts and facts can obviously bring reality to life for all those who simply do not believe in global warming, the reality is that this issue seems to get worse and worse as time goes on.
All right, Jocelyn, the proposition at the beginning actually contains the preview at the same time, so that's a little complicated, but there is a structure that you set up, and it's pretty easy to follow. Internally, you did a good job signposting those points. At the beginning, you mentioned that there's a controversy over whether or not the data is accurate in representing what's going on, or whether it's being manipulated for political purposes or ends. And I'm listening to that and say, okay, so that's the controversy, but you never talk about that controversy. You basically, in essence, say you're going to accept the conclusions of the IPCC and the others who advocate the belief and just argue what the harms would be, assuming that they're correct, when the dispute is probably not so much on a couple of these points about whether or not changes of the degrees that you're pointing to are going to, are dangerous, but rather not whether or not we're going to get those changes and how likely they are. The heat wave, for instance, material, there's no doubt that people die as a result of heat exposure. The question becomes how many of them died as a result of heat exposure that's a result of global warming, and the controversial part is man-caused global warming, because even people who argue against human involvement in global warming acknowledge that there is some degree of temperature change that goes on, but they argue that that's part of a natural cycle, and so the idea that there's something that we could do about it is a little bit futile. And that's where I think you needed to focus a little bit more on the controversy. Also, when you get to the information on some of these points, for instance, on the species risk, you say that 30% or more of the species would be at risk if we have an increase of 2.5 to 4.5 degrees over time, if our average temperature increases by that, our annual average temperature increases by that. But it sounds to me like down below, I know it's Celsius as opposed to Fahrenheit, but there was only a 0.8 degrees Celsius increase since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. So what is the likelihood that we're going to get these 2.5 to 4.5 degree increases within the period of time that's going to cause this harm? That, I think, is a piece of information that's missing. The polar bear thing is largely asserted. The coral reef thing, of course, is also dependent on a 3.6% increase in global annual temperatures. And again, we don't have any explanation about why that is likely. Are the trends? Do the trends suggest that those are the temperatures that we're going to reach? I didn't hear any evidence that suggested that. The evidence that links wildfires and the heat both miss a link suggesting that it's connected to global warming. There's an assumption about global warming. The one place where I thought you did provide a link was in the example of Hurricane Sandy, where you had a couple of pieces of evidence that suggested because of the change in temperatures and because of the change in the sea level that contributed to the hurricane having a greater effect. And so there was a little bit more of a link on that particular argument. You know, like I said, everything's pretty well organized. You cite the sources for the most part. I just think that you missed the focus of the dispute on a lot of the issues, and a couple of places you needed stronger evidence on your links. All right, thank you.